And I told Matt this as well. Like, before you come onto the show, you just have to understand that people are going to be critical of your decision no matter what.
Former Bachelorette Rachel Lindsay feels like Matt James is facing unfair pressure as the Bachelor. Hey guys, welcome to another shared news from home. We're gonna break down everything Rachel had to say, but before we get into it, if you're new here, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future updates. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring, and I'm joined by the wonderful Avery Grooms. Avery, Rachel had some really interesting things to say, so let's just dive right in. She gave an interview with Andy Cohen on his Radio Andy Sirius XM show on Wednesday, and she opened up about the criticism that Matt, who is of course the franchise's first Black Bachelor, has faced, and the unfair pressure that has been placed on him to choose a Black woman as his final pick. Rachel explained that the pressure isn't something you can understand unless you've been through it, which of course she has, being the franchise's first Black Bachelorette. She said, quote, "Being Black America is looking at you and they're trying to decide. They're telling you who they think you should pick, or you know what they want to see from you, and you're just trying to find love at the end of the day." So Rachel, of course, has been in Matt's shoes. She's gone through, the fame, the pressure, the commentary. And I think that this is a really interesting statement that she's making sort of on Matt's behalf. What do you think of what she has to say?
Yeah, I thought this was really well said, especially like at the end of the day, you're just trying to find love, regardless who that may be. That is the premise of the whole show. Regardless if you're Black or white and what the other person is, it doesn't matter. The whole theme of the show is to find love, and that's what he's trying to focus on. And there's already so much pressure as being the Bachelor, along with being the first Black Bachelor, that all this added pressure is just probably piling down on him. And like, this shouldn't even be a thing, but it's been turned into a thing because of the media and just the pressures of being the first Black Bachelor. But people forget, at the end of the day, you're just trying to find love, regardless what that is to anyone. So we should just let him do his thing and trust that that's what he's looking for and trying to do, because he's been very open and transparent this whole entire time. So I don't know. I feel like this shouldn't be a thing, but of course it is.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, in that first episode of Matt's season, he actually sat down with Chris Harrison. Sort of, remember, he like paused limo entrances. He wanted to sit down with Chris and kind of get something off his chest, make it almost disclaimer to the world as he started his season, which at the time, of course, I thought he handled it so well. He spoke so eloquently, but it really is interesting, looking back on it, to have had that conversation and to have felt the need to almost put a disclaimer on your season. At the time, in that conversation, he shared he struggled with the pressure that he put on himself, taking on the title of being the first Black Bachelor. He said, quote, "It's tough because you've got people who have certain views, old school views, on what a relationship and what love looks like. And you've got people who are cheering for you to find love. And then you've got people who are cheering for you to end up with a specific person of a specific race." He added, "That's something that kept me up at night. It's like, I don't want to piss off Black people. I don't want to piss off white people, but I'm both of those. You know what I mean? It's like, how do I please everybody?" So a lot of interesting, feelings and dynamics coming into play here. And I think that Matt is such a thoughtful guy. Of course he wants to please everybody, but as we were just saying, like, he's trying to find love. He's trying to find the woman who's going to make him happy, who he's going to spend his life with. I feel like this is just something that other leads have probably not even considered, or if they have considered, America weighing in on who they're going to end up with, definitely not to this extent.
No, and I genuinely understand where he's coming from, but it was that scene when he sat down with Chris Harrison which kind of triggered all of this. In my opinion, that did not need to happen. They could have just went on the show. They didn't need to start like that and sit down and have that conversation. That's what kind of led people's expectations and just everything to believe this, because he basically did sit down and say, like, I don't want people to be mad about who I choose, which is kind of insinuating he's not gonna choose a Black girl. Whatever, people did their research. People can dig into it as much as they want, and okay, that's just the way it is. And then that goes into a whole new thing. Like, he's getting criticized for being too whitewashed. And it's just like, can this guy just breathe? Like, can he just try to be the Bachelor the best way he can? Tayshia and Rachel, they didn't sit down and start their show with that conversation, and obviously no one had these expectations for them. I think that just kind of set the whole tone and kind of got people a little frazzled about it. Had that not happened, I don't think there'd be as much pressure and attention on who he's going to end up with. But I know a lot of people wanted a black love story, but at the end of the day, like I said, this is his love story regardless what color of the person he ends up with is. So we got to just let him do his thing.
I totally agree. I mean, ultimately, I think we all want Matt to find love, and I don't think anyone should be able to tell him how that should look, who it should be with, how he should feel, how he should act. You know, we've got to just let him go on his journey. Rachel actually revealed that she gave Matt some advice before he started filming. You know, she's been in a similar position. She's gone through it. She's also very in tune with Bachelor Nation. I mean, she hosts a podcast. She's a classic commentator. We always look to her for her takes. And she said that she shared with Matt,
before you come onto the show, you just have to understand that people are going to be critical of your decision no matter what. But you're making a decision for you that sets, you know, like puts your that you're determining your future, and you have to live this life. So you have to be comfortable with who it is that you're going to choose.
Honestly, I feel like that was incredible advice that not only Matt should take to heart, but anyone signing up for this crazy journey needs to keep in mind. You can't pick who America wants you to pick and end up in love. It doesn't always work out that way. You've got to pick who you're in love with.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. She makes such a good point. People are going to be critical of his decision no matter what. People are always critical about the leads, but I feel like especially this season, like there's almost more critics, more critiques because he's the Black Bachelor and all this extra baggage that comes with it. Also, if we look at all the other bachelors and all their criteria, I feel like Matt had to be perfect to a T because he was the first Black Bachelor. We look back at some other ones and there were bachelors who were unemployed or just didn't have as much together as he does, and he had to be perfect and check off all the boxes, and they had to go hand pick him. And it's just kind of like the expectations for him versus everyone else are just astronomical, and he has all this pressure on him just because he's Black in The Bachelor, and it's kind of ridiculous. And I feel bad because he's had to re-answer these questions so many times in so many different interviews addressing the same thing, and we need to just let him go on with his season and find love just like everyone else has been trying to do, regardless who that is, you know. And it's doesn't need to be made into such a thing, but it is, because this is the world we live in, and this is what comes with all of this.
Yeah, I mean, like you just said, he has addressed this time and time again. Obviously, like we said, he had that moment with Chris at the beginning of the season. It's been talked about. You know, he's shared his opinion. And as recently as just this week, he discussed it with Tamron Hall. And he said there's sort of an ongoing pressure.
Well, you know, I'm not going to lie and say there's no pressure because, listen, I'm a Black man and I'm well aware of the place that race plays in our society. And I'm on The Bachelor to get to know a whole host of people. And I'm making time to get to know everybody.
He went on to share again that what he's looking for isn't specific to a certain race. So I just want to say, I think we've seen Matt be an incredibly thoughtful bachelor so far. He's been vulnerable, which he's, you know, expressed to the audience is difficult to him. He's really taken the time to, like, I think, consider who he's connecting with, how their connection, you know, what it looks like. Is it real? Is it not? We saw him, you know, really disappointed to see Sarah leave. I think he's taking the process more seriously than a lot of the bachelors we've seen. I mean, look back to Peter's season. The thought and care he's putting into finding the woman he loves. Whoever he ends up with, I just hope America is incredibly happy for them.
I couldn't agree with you more. Like, he has done everything plus more. He's taken all this consideration. He actually puts, like, you could tell his focus and time into each girl when he's sitting there with them. He's listening. He's also, I've made a note of this because, like, I haven't seen another bachelor do this like him, but each time he's talking to the girls, he brings up something in their past conversation. And I'm just like, how do you remember that? And he's just so considerate and pays so close to detail. You could tell he really wants to put so much into this to get the most out of it. And he's taking this very seriously. So I really respect him for that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I've noticed that as well. Another thing that's really stood out is not to just one girl, to multiple girls. He's asked, like, well, what can I do for you? Or like, how can I best communicate like how I'm feeling to you? What do you need from me? And I have to say, I can't think of any other Bachelor who's asked that unprompted, you know? Like, I feel like we've seen guys or girls in the past be like, okay, well, I can tell you're really insecure or you're really upset. What do you need from me? He's just from the get-go going, okay, this is a crazy process. I really like you. How can I show up for you? And I think that that just speaks wonders to his character and who he is. And I really just hope that he ends up in love at the end of this. Sometimes I'm one of those skeptics who doesn't think the process can work, but I want it to work for Matt. All right, you guys, on that note, we want to know your thoughts on everything Rachel had to say, everything Matt's had to say, and just in general, how you think his season's going. Is he going to end up in love? Let us know down in the comments. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell, because we will, of course, be covering all things Matt James all season long. As always, I'm your host, Fiona Zaring. I was joined by the wonderful Avery Grooms. If you want to come say hi, our social handles are on the screen right now. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.